Hey, everybody, it's Dale Jr. back again for another episode of the Dale Jr. Download. And we got a great show for you today. We're going to talk a lot about the Nashville race and everything that went down. We also have Joey Logano, the race winner, calling in. We got some good questions for him as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. Let's get started. The following is a production of Dirty Mo Media. Hey, everybody, it's Dale Jr. back in the Dirty Mo Media studios. I'm actually still remote here on vacation. My wife says we're not on vacation. You know, I want to debate that. We'll debate that later in the show. But I feel like I've been on vacation for 6 weeks. The guys, the rest of the team, they're all back at in Mooresville at the Dirty Mo Media studios. And Andrew, Dalton, everybody's here. We got a big show coming up. I'm excited about this. A lot of stuff to talk about. We had a heck of a race, a couple races this past weekend in Nashville. And it's 4th of July, man. I've got my shirt on, my Junior Motorsports.
That's patriotic right there.
Yeah, 4th of July, my High Rock, red, white, and blue. I'm actually going to enjoy a little High Rock during the show. This is a margarita. This is High Rock. I know margaritas have tequila, but this is a High Rock and the margarita mix from Texas Roadhouse. Have you ever had that?
Oh, I've not, but that sounds good.
So the Texas Roadhouse margarita mix is absolutely my favorite. They came up with this margarita mix themselves, so it's an in-house sort of creation. But really, really good, and really good with High Rock. So I'm gonna. This will be the first time in a long time during the show that I've had a little pick me up.
Yeah, it's only 9:15 in the morning. Great way to get started.
I know, right? I'm on vacation. That's another sign.
Exactly,
like
right.
The umbrella in the drink, the time that you're having to drink, all of those things. Amy says she's not on vacation because she's still having to mom 24 hours a day, which is true.
So you're on vacation then?
Yeah, we've had ear infections from swimming and waking up in the middle of the night and all kinds of parenting, challenges, that traditional daily things that are going on. So it's been, I don't know if it's felt much like a vacation for her, but I'm certainly enjoying it. But this is the last week. So coming home after this show, we'll be back in the studio for however long till I take another vacation. So this is the year where I turn 50. So I'm trying to get out and do a lot of stuff. So we'll be in and out of the studio for the remainder of the year. Trying to bring all the great content that we want to bring every single week, but doing it with some challenges. Anyways, there were a couple things that I wanted to knock out before we got going. So there's this, I don't know if you can see this cardboard box that's in the shot. I put it there intentionally. We made a mention of Butler's Orchard. Butler's Orchard. Garlic and sea salt dilled pickles. This is a place, they, like I said it last week, they haven't gave me a dime, but I get a lot of flack for doing this. Sometimes when I really, really, really like something, I just can't keep it to myself. And the people in my brand team, my general manager, all the people that help me, sort of navigate everything in life, would be like, don't advertise something for nothing, right? But I just can't help it sometimes, right? These pickles, they're amazing. I want other people to try them, and anyhow. So apparently they're getting a ton of calls because we mentioned them last week on the show. They were really happy. They sent me a whole case of these pickles that I like. So thank you.
That's awesome.
Butler's, thank you, Butler's Orchard. How do you say it?
Maybe I'm glad you're not a spokesperson. I think it's
Orchard.
Orchard. That is just a tough word to say.
Yeah.
Orchard. Let's go, Butler's Farm.
Yeah.
Butler's Pickles. Butler's Pickles.
Due to my inability to pronounce this word, they will now be something you never forget. And that is sitting, that case of pickles is they got a ton of calls, and they were so happy. They sent me a case, and so my pickle guy brought them over yesterday.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I wanted to take a picture with my pickle guy Max, but he we didn't do that. Just to prove that he is my pickle guy. I don't know who your pickle guy is, but this box of pickles is sitting on top of the Titanic Lego set, which has been opened and which has been started, which you can see over my shoulder here.
Oh, wait, I just noticed that.
Yes.
Oh, heck yeah.
That's like the front third of the boat.
Can you bring it over so we can see it a little better?
I'll do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, dang.
Look at that.
There's the Titanic.
Oh, I see that, yeah.
Logo right there. So it comes apart right here.
Oh.
Is that by design? Is that like where
Yes.
the split or where the ship split off?
Jesus Christ.
If you look here, this is where the water entered.
Too soon.
It didn't come with...
Is it too soon?
Too soon.
It didn't...
It's been over 100 years, but still too soon.
It didn't come with the iceberg.
God, guys, just enjoy this. I mean, this is the front, obviously, and yeah, we're kind of. I mean, this whole kit has 9,000 pieces, dude.
So how long did that take?
Yeah.
This took a day.
A whole day. Holy cow.
I mean, on and off messing with it.
I got
and
you.
Amy's helped a little bit. The girls have helped a little bit. I'm going to send you some pictures, Andrew, and put it back.
You need to take a time lapse of you building it one day, just kind of like slowly putting it together. Everyone's going to be thrilled with that Titanic Lego update.
Andrew, nobody wants to see a time lapse of me putting together a Lego set. But I will send you some screenshots real quick so that you guys can add them into you can share. Amy cut some videos here. There's a lot here. So you might be able to speed one up, turn one into a time lapse. Anyhow, so yeah, I said I got the Titanic set, made a big freaking deal about it, brought it down here, been sitting in this box for 5 weeks, ain't touched it. And I said, damn it, I told everybody I'd get started on it and I'd put it behind me here as we worked on it. And so there you go. Last show from the vacation house this summer, and we got a little Titanic work done. It's way more fun than I thought it would be. Like, I thought it would be fun, but also at the same time, like, daunting and arduous. Is that right? Is that a word?
Yep.
Yeah. And so, there'd be moments where you're like, ugh, I regret starting this, But it's not been that way at all. It's actually really fun. And so it's starting to compete with, so when you get up in the morning on vacation, you have a couple things that are like, all right, man, today I would like to do X, Y, or Z, or maybe all of them, right? And drinking beer is like at the top of the list every day. And so it's really creeping up there, man. It's almost competing with drinking beer.
No.
So, of course, I guess you
can
could
do it
both
at the same time. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyhow, we are. Okay. So I got the pickles. We got the Titanic out of the way, and I guess we can dive right into what happened this past weekend in Nashville. Today's Dirty Air segment is brought to you by Tire Pros. Whether you know a lot about cars or little, the pros at Tire Pros are the go-to people for an oil change, an engine repair, or whatever you need. They've got you covered. Visit your local Tire Pros today. The race coverage from this past weekend, instant reaction from Nashville. This was an interesting, was it a good race poll with Jeff Gluck? Because, we had this really unique finish with all the green, white checkers and everything. And would that skew the poll to the good or to the bad? And Nashville usually races really well. It's surprisingly put on some great racing. As bad as I wanted the fairgrounds to be the place we race in Nashville, the speedway there has more than satisfied, I think, our expectations in terms of what kind of product we want to put on the racetrack, and certainly putting a product in and around Nashville. It's certainly not very close to Nashville. It's about an hour from there, but still close enough. But it's checking all the boxes. So good job, Nashville Speedway, Super Speedway. I don't like to call it a Super Speedway. That's the name of it, right?
Yeah, and it's not even a mile and a half
It's
distance.
not a Super Speedway.
Yeah.
It's Nashville Speedway. So that's what I'm calling it. And so
Butler's Farm, Nashville Speedway.
that's right. So, you know, I don't know where we are with the fairgrounds. Hadn't heard much over the past several months. Just when I think it's dead, something comes up, or I hear a bit of news from the folks that are working on that project that it's very much still in the works. So until then, I'm happy with the racing at Nashville Speedway. And so a couple things that we need to I watched the race. It wasn't as good as some Nashville races, but it was right there. Had a lot of things going on, even without all the green white checkers at the end. You had Hamlin and Larson going at it, and that was pretty interesting to hear Gabe Hart getting after Hamlin. What he called grab assing. He's like, hey, man, we got a fast enough car to win the race. Stop messing around. He's running in the back of Larson or something. I don't know what's going on. I wouldn't think nothing of that, him making contact with Larson's car. But a couple weeks ago, I forget where they were, but it was a late restart. They were getting ready to have a restart late in the race, and Josh Berry was running top 6. And he ran into the back of Ricky Stenhouse, I believe. And I didn't think it was a big deal, but it apparently bent the front of his car enough or damaged his car enough to where he lost a lot of pace and speed and balance in the car. So they're a little more delicate than maybe we realize in terms of, like, if you go up there and you bump into a guy, just slightly unsealing the hood or unsealing the hood and those louvers in the hood, all of that, any of that getting disrupted, just even the slightest, changes the air intake to the engine and all sorts of things. So that's something that I think drivers are not quite as aware of, but will be more and more sensitive to as we move forward. And I think that's why Gabe Hart was like, stop doing that. You might mess something up here in terms of how everything in the hood and in those louvers and all that stuff is sort of working together. Even underneath the hood, how all of that ram air is sort of piped together to go where it's supposed to go. That stuff can kind of get knocked loose and unsealed. So and then you're not getting air directly into the intake and all that stuff like you want. So anyhow, Hamlin and Larson there was a debate on Denny's show about it being a rivalry. This debate's been going on for 2 weeks. Last week, Denny said it was not a rivalry. This week, he slipped up and said it was. So, I think it's a rivalry. I think it's been a rivalry since way back in Pocono when Larson ended up in the fence there. So, it's been a rivalry. Drivers that are in rivalries aren't the ones to ask about it being a rivalry. It's our choice. It's the public's choice whether it is a rivalry or not, right? We decide that.
That's a good point. I mean, I don't think anyone went up to your dad and was like, are you a rival with Jeff Bodine? They just were.
Right. So, that stuff happens organically, and it's happened. It is happening. Denny and Larson, they are rivals.
I know you said drivers aren't the ones to ask about it, but I did ask Kyle Larson about this. I was at the race at Nashville this weekend, and I asked Larson about it, so here's the clip.
Yeah, he was just upset with the way I was racing him at the end of the second stage, but it's racing.
Denny says that there's not a rivalry between you guys. Do you agree with that statement?
I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't agree or disagree. It comes and goes. I feel like, we race well together at times, and there's times where I feel like he races me, not the fairest, and I'm sure he feels the same way. So, yeah, I mean, it's not an ongoing rivalry, but, there's definitely, weeks and stretches where it, compiles. But, yeah, hopefully we can move on from it soon, and I can get a little bit of respect from him.
I think he said that really well. But anytime they're around each other and there's something on the line, like if it's in the middle of a stage and they're battling for 5th place, they race each other really well. It's these moments, which happen quite often because they're both very talented and they're both in great race cars. It's these moments when it boils down to the end of a stage or there's something on the line and there's a few corners or a few laps to go when one takes advantage of the other. And they both done it, and it's great for us. I hope it continues, especially now. I think that we have them talking about it, and them, they maybe even unconsciously start keeping score, right? And nobody wants to lose a battle. So I think Hamlin and Larson, anytime they can duke it out and get aggressive with each other on the racetrack and use each other up and piss each other off, it's a good thing for all of us. Another thing that happened in the race, Hocevar spun Harrison Burton down the back straightaway.
Under yellow.
That was
under caution.
That was an odd-looking thing, man. That was a really odd-looking thing. So the caution comes out. Now, look, I'm debate this or throw me under the bus, whatever you want to do. I saw it. They didn't show it a ton, at least from watching it on TV. What I saw was certainly preventable. Hocevar did not have to turn Harrison around. He's wrong. He's wrong for doing that. He's wrong for doing it under caution, especially. Harrison slowed down really abruptly. Did y'all kind of notice that? It was like Harrison was slowing. I don't know if Harrison was just like, hey, I'm slowing down because the caution's out, but he kind of reduced his speed a lot quicker than the other cars around him, at least. And it was like he was mad as well. Before he gets spun out, it seemed, just judging by some body language out of the driving of the cars, it was like something went on between them two guys, and they were both annoyed with each other. And so Harrison, slowed his car rapidly in front of Hocevar to sort of let him know that he was annoyed. I may be completely wrong about that. Harrison may not have even been doing that. He may just been slowing down to slow down for the yellow, but he reduced his speed. It looked like a lot quicker than the other cars around him, like he was frustrated with something. And I just have to guess it might be Hocevar. Then Hocevar takes that opportunity to turn him. And so Hocevar's in the wrong. I don't believe penalties will come down the pipe.
Really?
Maybe they will.
You don't think so?
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I mean, usually they do something in the moment or don't do nothing at all.
In the case of Austin Hill, I think it was this year at Texas, no in-race penalties, but then he got penalized later in the week. I think it was points, it was money. So Bob
Do you remember any other moments, Andrew, this year where somebody got intentionally wrecked at any point, caution or green, and nothing was done?
Kyle Busch at the All-Star race put Ricky in the fence. I mean, Ricky ended up getting fined after that, but
that's during the green flag. Is that the difference for NASCAR?
I think under caution, and Denny Hamlin said this really well on Action's Detrimental, like under caution, the bull stops, basically, is what the ruling is from NASCAR. So there's a huge difference, I think, whether it's under green, under yellow.
I wonder what's okay under caution, because I like to sideswipe the out of some people under caution. Is that okay? Am I going to get penalized for that?
I think that's not okay. I don't think that's all right.
I think if you don't change
if somebody pisses me off enough, man, I want to run up there and run into their left front. That's like the most, that's the most sensitive part of the car. And if you screw that up on a guy's car, he's going to have a hard day. So I like to run into that left front tire and bend up his fender and all that stuff. Am I going to get in trouble?
I don't think NASCAR would take too kindly to that.
What does that even mean? Are they just going to be upset a little bit, or are they going to penalize me?
I don't know. At least in the case of this instance and
Yeah.
and Austin Hill as well.
Man.
Whenever you're spinning somebody out and then all of a sudden the rest of the field has to react, and you know there's safety trucks that could possibly be
Yeah.
out on the racetrack, and there's other cars that could be damaged, like that's where I think NASCAR, that doesn't fly with them. But
They didn't do anything in the moment. What was the problem there? Why didn't they do something in the moment, Andrew? If they're such sticklers for this little issue, how come they didn't react right in the moment?
it's a good question. I don't know why they didn't react exactly in the moment. Why do you think it's okay that penalties are levied later in the week versus in the race? Should he have been penalized if it's supposed to be a penalty in the moment?
That is a great question. I think you just helped me realize my problem with all this. I would, if NASCAR doesn't like it, if NASCAR wants to penalize someone who does this, I would prefer they do it in the moment, because that's when it stings. And for them to penalize someone midweek, not in the throes of competition, it doesn't have the same sting. It doesn't send the same message. No one truly will remember. If you're trying to set an example for others to follow, is everyone paying attention on a Wednesday when Hocevar gets a penalty? No. Does it resonate into the next event? Probably not. But if he's penalized in the moment, right then and there, and it's in front of hundreds of thousands, millions of people on TV, all over social media, then Hocevar, or him in this situation,
It's
I
a
don't
big
pick
moment.
on the guy too hard. Yeah, it's shaming, and it's impactful. But when it happens under the rug on a Wednesday, what are we doing?
So 2 things to that. I think the first thing, I totally agree with you. Like, if imagine the penalty was parking Hocevar after that. Holy cow. He's not going to do that again. That's how he learns, I think. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
this is impacting the end of a race. But
Yeah.
I'm trying to get in NASCAR's head a little bit here. And to your point earlier,
Be
where
careful
it's like,
what you do there. Be careful what you do.
I know. I'm just trying to understand, why is the penalty and why are we evaluating this midweek? And you said earlier it kind of looked like Harrison Burton was braking, but maybe they were both upset at each other. Do they have enough time to make a judgment call in that situation? Like, Hocevar could say, yeah, he was braking under yellow. Like, I pushed him, but he kind of helped that a little bit more. Like, do they need to take time to look at SMT, data, talk to both of the drivers? Again, I don't know how this process goes, but I'm just trying to think of, like, maybe that could be a reason why we end up waiting. I don't know if that's necessarily the right call, because obviously the bigger penalty is penalizing him in the moment, but that's me trying to get in their head.
I think, well, so I if that's the case, then I hate SMT and I wish it didn't exist, because I would rather them make I guess I'd rather them make the call based off of all of their years of experience. All the booth is full of racing experience. People that have drove cars, people that know the mindset of the drivers, and I would trust them to get it right more often than not in this situation, and penalize and bring Hocevar down for a couple laps, put him in a little penalty box. Dad and Jeff Bodine had that deal back in the 80s, and it spilled over into a Busch race at Charlotte one day, and Dad goes down into turn 3 and 4 and spins Jeff out, wrecks Jeff. And they put Dad on pit road in the penalty box for like 5 laps. Race was over for Dad. Now, he didn't get parked for the day, but he had enough of a penalty that it really, really stung. And I think that would be the only way you were going to get through to Dale Earnhardt. You weren't going to penalize him on a Tuesday or Wednesday and really get him to change his ways. Get him to really, truly think about, do I need to do this next time? Because if you take 5 laps off the board, from a competitor and somebody that's truly out there trying to do their very best, and that sends a message. Maybe it doesn't need to be 5, whatever it is, but that's kind of how I feel about that. I think everybody agrees we want to penalize people that are spinning people under caution and doing things intentionally under caution. And there's severities and different penalties to levy depending upon the severity. This wasn't super bad. It didn't really cost anybody any problems except for Burton but again, also you have Hocevar, who has this long history of sort of, a lot of questionable things going on throughout this guy's career. So, has what NASCAR done to this point changed his mindset enough, right? To get him on, to get Hocevar making better decisions, I guess. I would say NASCAR has fallen short a little bit in trying to change his mentality. So maybe a penalty during the race in the moment is what it's going to take. At one point in the race, Christopher Bell seemed like the car to beat. This guy, they are so fast every single week. It's early. I know I know we're past halfway in the season, but it's still really, really early in the grand scheme of things. And Denny Hamlin talked about this on his show, which I totally agree with. They were asking whether Bell's the favorite, and he's like, yeah, dude, can we not just do that every single week? Every time somebody goes out and has a great run, can we just not name everybody the favorite each and every week? Can we wait till the playoffs to determine who we think the favorite might be? And I agree with that, and there's so much racing left for someone else to rise to the occasion, and for Christopher Bell and his group to lose their advantage. If I were Christopher Bell, and they don't really have total control over this, but if they're truly peaking as a team, you would really want this to be happening around the playoffs. I will be really, really impressed if they can sustain this type of speed advantage and pace that they have to produce, almost winning cars every single week. I'll be super impressed if they can keep that going. But, it may be his year. We'll just have to see. But he ends up busting his ass, wrecked his race car. I was really surprised to see that. We don't see guys really bust their ass that much anymore. But he got himself in a bad situation aero-wise where he lost a ton of downforce, and the air trying to get underneath the car and over the top of the car, all that was gone in that scenario down in the corner. And so, Chase Elliott also had a solo spin as well. So, a bit surprising to see that, but at the same time, that's what we love. That's what I love about the sport, is knowing the drivers are on that ragged edge, and they at times do find themselves in bad situations where they're going to lose control of the race car.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
You talked about Bell's the favorite right now, but we can use that word so lightly. How hard is it to sustain speed? I know, you talked about that win at Michigan, how you guys figured it out, and then all of a sudden NASCAR figured out what you're doing. Keselowski's team figured something else out, and they won the championship. That was Michigan. That was in the summer of that year. So, what is this 20 team up against in terms of staying ahead of the competition? How hard is it to truly do that?
Yeah, it's impossible to do it. So, in just about every scenario, a team that finds an advantage is only going to hold that advantage for a 10 race or a 10 race stretch or a third of the season before either a teammate or another organization understands where this advantage is and adapts it and improves it. At least with the old car, that happened pretty regularly. But it's a little tougher for the teams to find the advantages with this car. There's just not a lot of areas to really work and do what you need to do. But I have I don't have any doubt that somebody will understand where Christopher Bell and his team have found some speed, and they will apply it to what they're doing and go out there and beat them that's the way the sport's been for decades. So, we've seen it every year. I mean, some team will do really well, win the regular season championship, and then someone else comes into the playoffs and puts on a hell of a run and does what they need to do to win the whole thing. It used to be with the old car where everyone made a lot of their parts and pieces. Teams would find advantages and a lot of times not use those advantages. I mean, literally put them on a shelf waiting for the playoffs, knowing that, man, we got this stuff, whether it's a part, a piece, a setup, direction, or whatever, and we're not going to run it. We're going to keep it right here. We know it's good. We're going to try to develop some other stuff, but we got this, and we're going to pull that out in the playoffs. We used to call them updates. Even like, Chase Elliott would be like, hey, we're running good, but we got some updates coming for the playoffs. And so, you'd start the playoffs and all of a sudden, wow, all these teams are running better. And how do you explain when we go to the finals and the four drivers that are racing for the championship more often than not are running in the top five every year? How is that possible? Well, they've taken basically the best of everything they have and brought it to that one race. They don't do that every week. That's not sustainable. And so, I think Christopher Bell and those guys should enjoy it while they are doing it, while it's happening for them. Can they sustain it the entire season? Damn, that would be unusual.
Dale, I've got a question for you. Speaking of Chase, he was also someone that lost control of his car, and there was a couple moments in the race where some of these drivers that have a lot of speed, we saw Kyle Larson kind of get too low and wash up into Ross. How much responsibility, because Chase said that it's not all right, it's unacceptable that he lost control. How much responsibility lies on the driver in that moment when multiple drivers are having issues on the track that day? Like, should he take all that on himself, or is this kind of like a move forward and just get to the next race kind of thing?
Chase is super hard on himself, always has been. But it is all the driver's responsibility. So, like, you can't wreck the car. That's always on the driver. I say you can't wreck the car. That's the way the driver feels, right? That's the way Chase feels. That's the way Christopher Bell feels. I'm got here. I'm supposed to run this thing and run the fastest lap it can run every single time and not crash. And so, but you're going to find, if you're not, you're going to take risks and put yourself in situations where those things are going to happen. And it is hard to look at your team and go, yeah, I'm the one that screwed up today. We're all here together and none of us want to ruin this day for ourselves. And today I was the one who did that. That's the tough part, because you are really, responsible for everything that happens inside the car when it's out on the racetrack. It looked like we were going to have a kind of a replay of it seems like every time we go to Nashville, it's Denny and Ross battling for the win. And there was some great moments during that little battle, and we watched Denny work really hard to try to get around Ross, who is so hard to pass. And it looked like Denny was on his way to win another race. What happens after that is pretty incredible. 31 laps, 41 extra miles, 5 overtime attempts, and Joey Logano wins the race. He went 110 laps on fuel. Everybody's wondering how in the hell he did that. But, there's been a ton of conversation on social media about the 5 overtime attempts. Is that something we need to, have out there as a possibility? Should they change that? All of, just talking in circles about all of that, which I think is a big waste of time. this isn't happening every single week. This is a rare situation where a car spins out with 2 laps to go. The entire field, just about like every week, is pushing themselves on fuel mileage. That created a lot of the problems on the restart attempts, with cars not able to accelerate, cars out of fuel, all of that created a bunch of our problems in the overtime attempts that we had. So this was sort of a perfect storm. So I don't think we need to react at all. I don't think there needs to be any change, nothing. All of the blame, if there's anything that you didn't like about the end of that race, right, which it's fine if you didn't like something. If you thought, oh, man, all these overtime attempts, stupid. Or if there was anything about it that you were upset with, you should blame Austin Cindric. All right? Because Austin Cindric is running a 400-mile race and spun out on the back straightaway with 2 laps to go. A Cup Series regular, one of the best race car drivers, one of the best oval racers in the country, wrecked off of turn 2 with 2 laps to go in a 400-mile race. That's like the UPS guy or the Amazon or FedEx guy. You buy something, ships all the way across the country, and the guy throws it at the front porch and breaks it. It's like made it all the way to the front porch and got busted.
That's a good analogy.
What the hell? What in the hell? So Austin Cindric, it's on you, buddy. All that stuff that happened at the end was entirely unnecessary. But if he can get off turn 2 without spinning out, and he goes way down the track and spins out to the right. I mean, I don't know how you do that. I don't know how you do that. But that's what led to all of this. None of this happens if Austin can get off turn 2 like he did for 398 miles.
And Denny pointed out that if he didn't get the penalty for having that fan blowing on the car under the red flag, he wouldn't have lost his track position. He wouldn't have been fighting late in the field and maybe wouldn't have spun out. So ultimately, that might have cost Denny Hamlin the race.
Right.
I don't know. I think that's funny. Are you for the chaos in this instance, in this situation?
I'm not for it or against it. It was
what it was.
It is what it is. I don't have a problem with the overtime attempts. Listen, when we had races finishing under yellow, the amount of frustration and complaints about that, we don't need to go back to that in any scenario. So today, for now, I am completely fine with unlimited attempts. This 5 overtime attempts isn't happening every other week.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Now, if it starts to become a situation, then we'll deal with it. But it's the first time it's really gotten to this point. And so until it becomes like this reoccurring issue, then maybe we would need to address it. Now, I could also argue, like at Daytona and Talladega, maybe even Atlanta, there might need to be a different scenario of attempts, but I never loved doing different things at different tracks, right? I want the rules to be flat across the board no matter where we go. But so I'm fine with it because it wasn't really drivers just doing a bunch of dumb. We did have issues where cars didn't accelerate, and there were some problems with that creating cautions and some of those overtime attempts not being successful. So, yeah, I think it was just kind of a perfect storm. A lot of things happening at once that got us to that point. But I put it all on Austin Cindric. If he gets off turn 2, none of this ever happens. So I'm sure he'll be fine carrying the blame for this, shouldering the blame for all of the carnage and chaos that happened in those extra 31 laps.
It's the weight of the world on his shoulders.
It's what you sign up for, man. It's when you get in that car on Sunday, you'll be ready for the criticism and everything that comes along with it. You want to win races, celebrate, be celebrated. You got to be able to handle the criticism.
Yeah. Do you think NASCAR, I was thinking about this, I think maybe in between the third or fourth caution, especially when all these drivers are really tight on fuel, is a red flag in that situation? No, it's not a good idea? Why not?
No. Why do you want to throw a red flag?
Well, if we're logging,
trying to help?
If we're wasting laps, if we're logging laps, trying to figure something out, cleaning damage up, like, I know it's happened before. I know the damage and the cleanup wasn't as extensive as like a Daytona red flag in an overtime situation, but I mean, if we're continuing just log laps and if it's an overtime situation,
it wasn't that many laps.
I don't know.
You
I
act
mean,
like they were running 20 laps under caution.
They ran 31
it's like,
extra laps in this race, and I don't know how many of them were under caution, but a lot of them were.
I know, but the cautions themselves were brief. So
people were saying that it was certain ones were unnecessarily long.
Okay, I don't care. I don't want a red flag. Red flag to race when you can't, when the path around the racetrack is blocked, or there's so much debris that you don't want to put have drivers going through that area. You can red flag it then, or if it's it's a medical issue or an emergency, you can red flag it then. The red flagging it to help drivers that are struggling with fuel is a manipulation.
Okay, I could see that. I don't know. It was just a thought that crossed my mind, and it's like,
well, hey, all right. So this is really going to be something that pisses a lot of people off if you do that, Andrew. So you have, you have a green, white, checkered, or caution comes out, Austin Cindric spins, caution comes out. We're going to have a green, white, checkered. People are tight on fuel. You don't throw the red. Green, white, checker comes out. We have a crash. Couple guys are going to, couple guys come down pit road thinking that they need to get fuel. If you're throwing the red flag at any point later, then you're benefiting some people and you're not giving others the same benefit because they didn't know the red flag was coming. And so it's too much. That's way too much manipulation, and it serves some drivers and some teams, and it doesn't serve others. And I think that's unfair. And so, unless if it's gonna take you 10 caution laps to get this cleaned up, yes. But if it's a typical crash, we're gonna get this car off the track. It's going to be, 3 to 5 laps of caution, then I wouldn't throw the red flag. Because you don't want to manipulate someone's strategy toward, and hurt others. And I think that would do that. I know people would probably argue that it wouldn't make any difference, but if you're going to throw the red flag, then you got to throw the red flag at the first instance of a green, white, checkered to make sure it doesn't benefit some and not others, right? Wouldn't you think? You don't want to do that.
I think you've changed my mind on this. Yeah, because
now you've got to red flag it every time.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Hey, convinced me.
Is there any part of this though where it becomes like a safety issue? Like if one of the cars at the front is on fumes and you go to a restart and there's a good chance that car isn't getting off the line, right? Like Kyle Larson, exactly what happened with Kyle Larson. Is there any reason for NASCAR to do anything about that, knowing that if that car doesn't jump, you're going to have chaos behind it?
No, I wouldn't say that would be anything I'd want NASCAR to step in and do anything about. The teams chose to be out there. They're taking the risk. The people that are, you have a choose cone. You know that guy's strategy in front of you. You've chose to line up behind him. You've put yourself in that situation. So, whatever happens when the green comes out, just the way it's going to go. So I don't have an issue with that. We could beat this to death. I think it all worked as intended. And again, none of it really happens if Austin Cindric can get off turn 2. He's going to be so mad. Joe Logano's win, though, does shake up the playoff race, and that probably, after the dust settled, Joey crosses the finish line, we see the playoff graphic come up on the TV screen, and now Alex Bowman is in the 16th position, just barely behind Chris Buescher and Ross Chastain. All those guys are at 51, 56, and 66 plus to the cut line. Bubba Wallace is now 51 back in 17th. Briscoe's 78 back. Kyle Busch now falls because of the Joe Logano win. Now Kyle is 104 points out. Josh Berry was sitting around 70 points out at points, during points of this race, and now he's minus 131. So the Joe Logano win really, really busted up the battle and didn't really help anybody in those positions from like 13th on down to 20th. It actually put everybody in a tougher spot and a steeper hill to climb. So, Martin Truex Jr., who's our guest tomorrow on the download at plus 143, is comfortably in 12th position. As long as we don't have a rash of new winners, I think Martin gets in on points. And Ty Gibbs, I think a full race is actually a pretty good place to be. So, even Alex Bowman, barring just a rash of really bad performances, I think is in a pretty good spot as long as nobody else wins. But again, I think, Bubba Wallace, Briscoe, Kyle Busch even. I know everybody's giving this guy a hard time. They're running like shit. But I'm just telling you, Kyle Busch and that team, if they can just get it to click one day, they could pop off and win a race. And so, there's a handful of guys sitting there that could get a win and knock themselves into the playoffs. I think it's still compelling is my point in terms of the playoff battle. It was extremely hot in Nashville. I did not envy the position anybody was in, from the spotters to the drivers in the cars. That is about as miserable conditions as you'll find yourself in a race car. And TJ and those guys, TJ apparently was wearing a cool suit.
Yeah, what'd you think of that?
I want to know how it works. So, has he got the same that the driver has?
I think it was. Is that what
it's
the broadcast
very
said?
similar, yeah.
How did he power the box?
How do the drivers power it?
It hooks up to the battery in the car, dude.
Oh.
Goes through the alternator and all that.
That's why Denny and them were having voltage issues. Because then they told him to turn his cool shirt off.
Oh.
Oof.
Maybe
Yeah.
he brought a car battery up there with him. Who knows?
I don't know.
What'd you think of what'd you think of TJ wearing a cool shirt?
Damn right, I'd wear one
You
if I
would
could.
too?
Yeah. Watch it, man. At some of these other events, there'll be more spotters doing it. They'll
No.
try to hide it. They'll try to not let nobody know they're doing it because they don't want any of the attention. But TJ don't give a I think it's fine. And I like Brad Keselowski's answer. He wants everybody to be on top of their game at all times. If it helps TJ do his job better, then he wants him to do it. I thought that was great.
It was freaking
Yeah.
hot. Like I simply standing outside for a long period of time, let alone in the sun, was brutal this past weekend. I was talking to a few drivers, and some of them were saying, like, there's no way to actually describe how hot it is inside a race car. So I'm going to ask you to do that. What is that like?
At the risk of sounding like a complainer, I begin to wonder if there is a point when we would need to do something to this is too hot. Like, I think a race like that in Nashville, that is nothing that I think we should be putting the drivers, the fans, the teams, the spotters. I don't think that it's necessary that we put them through that situation. Now, what could you do? I mean, other than just, you move the race into the later in the day, run it at night, whatever. I don't know if that's even really possible, right? But we've got to be there. I bet you there are some conversations at the very early stages, low-level conversations in the NASCAR building about these type of situations where the heat is just too intense. We had a race at Chicago where it's 150 degrees inside the race cars.
That was in like
I think
19,
that was,
right? 2019.
I think it's it's like my first or second year in the booth.
I was there for that. That was probably the hottest day I've ever been at a racetrack before.
So I think that we're not maybe there just yet, but this is right on the threshold of maybe we need to think about having like an alternate plan in these situations where we can still run the race, but we can save everybody a lot of the abuse that they're going to have to go through. And not everybody is the same when it comes to heat tolerance. Not everybody handles heat as well or as good as others, right? And so just by their, some people struggle more than others, I guess, in the heat. And so we just really don't want to find out. We don't want to find out what's too far. Does that make sense?
Right.
We don't need to put ourselves in a situation where we learn that this is too much. This is too hot. This is the drivers being in a car that's 150 degrees for 3.5 hours is detrimental to their health in some way, or somebody suffers an event, right? Or somebody suffers some sort of medical emergency. We don't need to get to that point. And I think we're getting close. I really do. And so I don't think we're there yet, but I think, if we're racing at some of these certain racetracks and some of these certain environments during certain parts of the year, you could put yourself in a situation where we may see record temps inside the cars. And what is dangerously hot? That'd be a good question for a doctor to tell us. Like, where would we get into the danger zone, with the drivers? And let's try to protect them from, because they're going to get in there.
No matter what.
They're going to do it.
Yeah.
And let's try to make sure we're protecting the drivers as well as we can. And I feel like that those conditions this past Sunday were as intense as we need to be fooling with. But to describe it, to answer your question that you asked me, it's like I've been on fire and I've been in fire. That is like a million bee stings. It's 700 and something degrees instantly. Just your whole body feels like a million bees are stinging you all at the same time. The heat inside, a car that's 150 degrees. You ever got your face down close to the stove, the burner on the stove,
Or like the oven.
and
Yeah.
and you can only, or say you're trying to turn a knob on a grill, or something like it's getting near something like that type of a heat source that's really, really hot, and you can only keep your hand there or your face there for a few moments before it starts to feel like you're getting almost sunburnt, right? It feels like that. Your whole face feels like it's cooking inside that helmet. All of your skin, it's almost raw to the touch. It's so hot, and it feels like, I can think about it right now, like feeling it on my cheeks. Like you didn't even want to touch your face because it felt like it would hurt to touch it because it felt like it was like super severe sunburn. Your core gets really hot, but they have these cool vests. They do help. under those certain conditions at Nashville, a lot of the things that we have inside the cars fail to work at that temperature. So a lot of people aren't really getting much of a benefit from the cool vests at Nashville, but they probably do save the drivers a ton of abuse. But you have to make the tough part about it is in a lot of situations you have to choose. We used to run a cool box into the helmet. That worked really nice, but the air was only about 10 to 20 degrees cooler than what was actually outside the helmet. But it was better. And then they come out with a vest, and the vest was amazing. The vest was way cooler, way better than having the helmet, but you couldn't have both. You wanted both, but you couldn't have both because of the amps that it draws. It's too much amperage. And the teams only want to allow, as minimal as possible in terms of drawing amps from fans and brake fans or B coolers, tire coolers, whatever you want to, all the things going on in the car. And so they'd only allow the driver, like he has a certain amount of amps that he has to use, and you can only fit certain things into that box. And so that was I don't envy that. I got that race at Langley coming up, the Hampton Heat, and it's only 100 or 200 lap race, but it's going to be miserable. And our late model stock cars don't have any of the heat shields and all of the things on the race car that can actually help tame down the temperature inside the cockpit. We're going to go up there and practice in the heat of the day, and it is going to suck. I'm just not even excited about that part. I'm looking forward to driving the race and all that, man, but the heat is going to be miserable. Bristol shouldn't be too bad. Bristol last year was actually kind of fun in September. I don't know. Shouldn't be too hot. Usually temperature inside the car is not that big of an issue. It's uncomfortable, but it's weird because 150 degrees in Chicago or in Nashville is terrible, right? You can go to Michigan and it'll be 125 or 130 and it feels just as bad because of how humid. And it's so damn thick and humid in there. And you're thinking, surely to God it's 175 degrees in this car. And they'll stick a gun in there, a heat gun, and it's 130 degrees. And you're like, God, this feels worse than Nashville. It just depends on where you are and the time of the year and all that stuff. It can be pretty brutal.
Damn.
So a couple other things.
Hold on, wait. I want to go back before we get too much further down the show sheet. Back to the overtime attempts. I know this was a big topic on a bunch of the shows this week. Kyle Busch getting his spot back after being involved in a crash in, I don't know, the first or second or third overtime attempt. I don't remember what it was, but that was a hot topic. People were debating, well, maybe he shouldn't have gotten that spot back. NASCAR gave it back to him. What'd you think of that?
I don't understand how he gets it back. I don't. I watched the guy go up and hit the wall. I know he didn't drive into the wreck. He didn't hit the one car that was spinning out in front of him. But he did go up the racetrack, make contact with the outside wall. In that moment, for me, he's in the wreck.
Mm-hmm. I saw that go down. I'm like, oh, man, what a terrible day for Kyle Busch. Like, he's over. And then I look back, and he's, like, fourth in line. I'm like, how did this happen? Like, he was in a crash.
I don't know what NASCAR is thinking there. I got nothing against Kyle Busch, and I'm a believer they get a win, they get themselves in the playoff. I'm a believer that that they're absolutely still capable of doing all that. But no matter who it is in that scenario, I don't understand NASCAR's reasoning. I watched the guy go up and hit the wall, and in my mind, in that moment, he's in the crash. The contact with the wall is the trigger that he's now involved. And so, I don't know. That doesn't jive with the last 30 years or 40 years of racing that I've watched.
NASCAR's reasoning, at least according to Jordan Bianchi and Jeff Gluck on the teardown this week, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong too, but it was basically like Busch made an attempt to slow down to avoid the wreck, and so like for those reasons, we gave him a spot back. And then, of course, I think it ended up being a timing loop thing as well. Like at the time of the caution, he was in X position, but I don't think there's any arguing that. I mean, like, he was in the crash. Like, his car hit the wall. Like, I could see how it's confusing to me, but that was at least the NASCAR reasoning behind it, according to the teardown.
Do you think that at any point during all of the things going on in this race that likely happened, what happened to Kyle Busch in that moment, happened to multiple drivers during the day? Like how many times
it happened
in
with,
all of those situations did drivers slow down to try to avoid the wreck and not get back into this, this mythical position they were supposed to be in? How do we know that everyone is being afforded, afforded the exact same parameters? It just doesn't feel like that was how we've done it. But there was a race at Watkins Glen. This pisses me off just thinking about it. Me and Steve Letarte, we're racing our ass off late in the race, and we're in the middle of a battle around the bubble to make the playoffs. And Clint Boyer is a driver that was in that battle as well, among others. There was a big crash. There was a big crash somewhere in the last lap of the race. And we had gotten the white flag, so I guess the race is over. Clint's car gets destroyed in this wreck. And we passed him. He wasn't keeping pace. A lot of people passed him. Like 15 cars go by Clint, and he's crashed all to hell, smoking, pouring out of his car. Well, as we're coming around to get to the checkered under caution, he drives back around everybody back up to a spot, and the race ends, and there's Clint in 12th place, 10th place. Me and Steve went over to the NASCAR hauler, and we're like, how in the hell did he finish in front of us? He wrecked on the last lap. He crashed, his car's destroyed in the front. How do you put him back in front of us? We passed him he crashed in the wreck. This was the same race, I believe, that they had that really nasty wreck in turn 2 with Rudeman. David Reagan and all them kind of got together. And I remember standing at the NASCAR hauler arguing with Steve Letarte and the NASCAR officials, and somebody's entire front clip was sitting right there on that came from that wreck, just laying there on the ground at the NASCAR hauler. But that was bull then, and it's bull today. And I don't care what you tell me. I mean, I watched a guy crash into the wreck. He's done. That wherever he gets, he's gonna finish in the back. No way his ass gets put back in his position like nothing happened to him. And so, those kind of things, I guess, I could look at it like this. Those kind of things happen. I don't agree with it. I don't love it. I don't like it. But NASCAR's every once in a while is going to do it, and they got their reasons for doing it. But I don't agree with it. I think when he goes up and brushes the wall ever so slightly, he's in the crash. I mean, it's unfortunate that is for him. He's part of the wreck at that point. But I'm not in the booth. That's the way I would call it. But I'm not up there making those calls.
It seemed like there was a couple moments of inconsistencies like that, because even Chase Elliott on his spin goes to drive up back to what his position was, and NASCAR goes, nope, you got to get to the back. And then they called him back up to the front to get his spot back. So it seemed like there was just a couple moments where they were like, I don't know, get your spot back.
Yeah. I don't know, man. That's weird. So, yeah, I was reading about that. I didn't really notice that when the race was happening, but Chase spins down the front straightaway. How many spots did he lose when he spun?
He said like 15 or something like that.
And they put him back up there.
Something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't know why they're doing that. And I guess it feels new. It feels like, hey, I don't remember this, right? From the last 40 years. But am I going to get that every time?
It's like a get out of jail free card almost.
Yeah, but is it like random when it happens to you? Like Chase could spend 5 weeks in a row and not get that same treatment.
Right. I get what you're saying.
Right. Yeah. Like if somebody spins out in turn 1 and 2 at New Hampshire and got their 15 spots back, what the hell? Is that the same thing? Am I overblowing this? Am I making this too big?
No, I think you're making it big enough. It's just I wonder who has the answers on something like that. Like I wonder who we could talk to that would be able to say, yeah, this is why. This is why we gave Chase a spot back. Because right now, no one knows.
I don't know that it was that many spots.
It probably wasn't, but
when he spins down the infield, just looking on the in-car camera, all these cars, there weren't that many cars that went by. And I don't know. He does spin by the flag stand. I don't know. You know, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out where their rationale comes. I feel like that, you know, there's something to that, but that's also getting themselves into some, you know, going forward, right?
Right.
That gets them in a little sticky spot where they're like, you did this guy a favor. I was being courteous.
Yeah. Be courteous to me.
Yeah. Where's my spots?
Mm-hmm.
You know, now they're going to have to do that for everybody.
I think I got 15 spots from DBC. They love to exaggerate over there. So maybe it wasn't 15, but it could have been 5. I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, some news that broke today. Homestead announced their new track president, Guillermo Santa Cruz. What does this mean? I know you were texting Ben Kennedy about it.
As much as I think we all would want this to have been the news that Homestead may be returning to the finale at some point down the road, don't dismiss this piece of information because that this could be one of the dominoes in that process. We just don't know. So texting with Ben Kennedy, he's excited about this news. He thinks that this is a great move for their executive team and for Homestead as well. And so I'm still hopeful that that means that they're prepping Homestead for something, right? And so as we all continue to, you know, spin the rumor mill about what might happen to the schedule in the next couple of years, even next year, everybody, you know, there's a lot of people that would love to see Homestead, you know, as the finale again, and maybe this is one of the moves to get you in that direction. So there was a couple of other things that came out. One piece of news before the race weekend in Nashville, you know, there was this long rumor about what happened between Aric Almirola and Bubba Wallace. Apparently there was a rumor that something had went on between the two drivers at a competition meeting. Almirola was pulled out of the Xfinity car for the Charlotte Xfinity race in May. And they said, oh, you know, he's just, you know, suspended indefinitely. So, you know, wow, what did this guy do? I don't think we'll ever really know. I mean, I could probably call Denny and say, give me the scoop, and he'd tell me. But out of respect to Bubba and Aric, I mean, I think that it's probably best that, you know, they be the ones to tell that story if they ever want to. Bubba was asked about it this past weekend, brushed it off, said he's moving forward. And but man, things must have really gotten heated in that room. And there's probably, if I had to guess, there's probably a dozen people in this competition meeting, right? So you got a lot of witnesses, a lot of people there to see how this all gets started or whatever happens. And so I would trust their judgment and trust Joe Gibbs Racing's judgment to make the decisions and to handle this the way they think they needed to handle it. And if it was to suspend Aric and pull him out of the car, then I trust that that's what needed to happen. It's unfortunate for Aric. I know that he's thinking, hey, man, I've retired from full-time racing. I'm going to get back in the Joe Gibbs Xfinity car a couple times this year. We're going to have fun. I'm going to have some shots at winning some races. And it's really looked like that's been the case up to this point. And so I hope that, they can get this all worked out and everything. Cooler heads can prevail, and Aric can enjoy the remainder of the season, and then possibly get him some victories before he officially whenever hangs it up entirely. So I don't know that I need to know what happened in that room, and I'm kind of glad though that I guess Jordan Bianchi with The Athletic broke the news officially that something did go down. It was a physical altercation between the two, and that Aric was the one that was deemed the instigator of the whole thing. So I guess that's all we'll ever know. That's fine with me. Also, another bit of information that just came out is Joey Logano is going to replace Hailie Deegan at AM Racing in the number 15 car at Chicago for the street course race in the Xfinity Series. And the team says the change is to try to give them an opportunity to get feedback and improve their car. This is a tough situation for Hailie because no matter what spin they use, the words and whatever they use in a media release, Joey's getting put in the car, she's getting pulled out. It's a tough situation for her. My advice, I think, would be to be as professional as you can. Think about, if she is to get back in the car, if she is the future of that team, if she is to finish the year in this car, having Joey drive it absolutely is a benefit. You don't want to sit out a race, but having a guy like Joey get in there, and I don't know what Joey can really truly help them with at a road course. I mean, if anything, you'd rather Joey be driving the car at some of the ovals. And I mean, it's not uncommon and it's been like this for decades, especially back in the 70s and 80s and 90s, for a driver to call one of the veterans to come over and drive their car. Say, hey, man, hop in my car, run it a few laps. Tell me what I'm missing. Tell me what I need to be focusing on. What is the problem here that I really, truly need to fix? And so I like this situation. I don't think it's a bad situation. But at Chicago, what are they really going to learn that they can take to all of the other racetracks that they run at? And I guess I got to ask how I would be shocked and surprised, I believe, if Joey just goes over to their shop and hops in that 15 car and goes racing. Will there be some Penske influence? Will this car be, will this car have an engineer from Penske involved? Will nothing happen? Will Joey just go drive this 15 car that, that's a back marker for the most part, or runs in the back half of the field? That's a bit unusual. Joey Logano or any other driver in the Xfinity Series outside of Chastain doesn't just hop in a back marker and go race. They're often, they might have the owner and the number and all of that in the same manufacturer, but a lot of times these cars are influenced physically by their cup team that they race for on Sunday. So my curiosity, which probably doesn't matter to a lot of people, is does this 15 car get over to Penske at any point during this week? Is it prepped by Penske? Is it not at all? Does there zero involvement with Penske and Joey's just doing them a big, massive favor? I'm curious about all of those arrangements to see, exactly what does AM Racing, hope to benefit from doing this. So, we'll see how Joey races, how the car runs, how competitive he is, and maybe we'll learn a little bit about too what outside influence AM Racing may have from maybe Penske in all of this. So pretty compelling, but hopefully, I'd like to see Hailie finish the season. Hopefully there's nothing in jeopardy there, and the team does get better. This week's Dirty Air segment was brought to you by Tire Pros. There's few people who love cars as much as I do, but these tire and service experts equally love to drive. They offer a huge selection of brand-name tires and full-service repairs from oil changes to alignments to brakes. Tire Pros is giving your vehicle the TLC it deserves. Tire Pros is unique because each location is owned by men and women in your community, but they have the added support and resources of over 600 locations nationwide. So next time you need to take your car in, show your neighbors some love and take it to your local Tire Pros.
And we are live.
Hey, NASCAR fans. This is the Ask Junior portion of the show. We are having a great time here talking about yesterday's race and everything that went on. And but anyways, again, the Ask Junior segment of the show is brought to you by Xfinity Mobile. It's the fastest mobile service with 5G, millions of Wi-Fi hotspots all across the nation. You know that it's going to come through in a clutch. So make the switch today and save with Xfinity Mobile. They're a proud premier partner of NASCAR. We've got some great questions compiled that you've been sending us on social media. And so let's get started, Andrew.
Yeah, this first question is from Casey, and she wants to know, why are you against concrete? I know she's heard you talk about it before. I know we talked about this earlier in the show. It's, hey, Nashville is a decent race, but what is it about concrete that you're not a fan of?
Well, I thought that so concrete to me is Dover and Bristol. Those two racetracks are great tracks. I'm a big fan of both. They have things about, they have two things that I love about a racetrack. And one of them is very steep banking. And they're relatively short. Dover's a mile and Bristol's a half mile. And so usually the steep banking is reserved, at least back in, when I was much, much younger, the steep banked racetracks in NASCAR were reserved for the mile and a halves and Daytona and Talladega. And so having a very steep banked short track was very compelling. Bristol, when it was asphalt, was it was magic. It seemed like it was something that you would never be able to replicate. And we had there were insane races on that asphalt. Now when and they went to concrete because they had a lot of problems with the track tearing apart. They had a repave, and they ran the next weekend after the repave. Rather warm conditions. They raced the Xfinity race during the day, and cars were tearing up the racetrack in practice and during the Xfinity race, and just a lot of problems. And so they just said, screw it, we'll concrete this racetrack. They did the same thing at Dover. Repaved Dover, had a lot of problems with the track tearing up, big holes, loose gravel, big problems. And they said, screw it, we're going to concrete it. And so I hated that. I hated that they took those two racetracks that were super incredible, magical racetracks, and put concrete down. And they've never been the same ever since. So concrete, when you pave a racetrack or a strip of road or anything, it's consistent, smooth. There may be some bumps and imperfections, but it's one strip, it's one ribbon of asphalt, right? All the way around. When you concrete anything, you have to grind these or cut these cracks in it to allow it to expand and contract in temperature and throughout the year, or it'll crack and bust, right? And those joints sort of bow up like an untreated deck on a house, right? And so the joists in that concrete sort of bow up and down throughout the year. And if you've ever drove on a stretch of interstate that's concrete, your car is like dun, 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 dun. It's like bouncing over these these joists. That's the way the cars go around a concrete racetrack. And as you build air pressure, they start literally bouncing off the ground. I used to call Goodyear's tires basketballs when we'd go to Dover and Bristol. They would get so mad at me for complaining. Goodyear would get so mad at me for describing their tires in such a way. I'm like, these things suck. They're like basketballs. And or hockey pucks. Hard as a hockey puck. But I think, concrete just isn't as good. And I know, look, I can go to Nashville and I can go to Dover and I can go to Bristol and I can see an amazing race there today. We'll see great races at those racetracks. But I know where the potential is if they were asphalt. And I know how much we're missing.
Denny won the last 3 concrete races, other than this one at Nashville. What makes him so good at concrete versus is there something that makes a driver better at one versus the other?
There might be something that a driver appreciates about the feeling of driving a car on concrete, but a lot of times, too, it's the team and crew chief, air pressure, setup. There's certain ways to get grip, find grip, create grip that, that you would do at a concrete track that might be a little different than an asphalt track. So there may be, I would say that his team, we had some magic. Junior Motorsports had something magical there at Nashville for a while. Every time we went there, no matter how we ran throughout the rest of the year, we would always run good at Nashville. And so, you find air pressures or a combination of things that can set you apart at those racetracks. But yeah, I mean, it's expensive to repave them. I think the technology we have today would allow the asphalt to survive. We wouldn't have, we wouldn't go to, I don't think if you repave Bristol, I don't think you'd go there and tear it up. Or I don't think the cars would destroy the track like it did in the 80s and 90s. But we'll never probably ever see them asphalt again. But I just know how much better the races might be and how much more exciting and compelling the action might be if they were asphalt. And I hate that we're not. I hate that you guys and fans out there watching the show right now will never know never know that.
I wanted to comment on a YouTube comment here real quick. Yes, that is the Titanic Lego set in the background of Dale's room. We talked about it earlier in the show, so make sure you go tune in and listen to that. This next one is coming from Robert. Andy Petree, and I think it was announced last week or 2 weeks ago that he's leaving RCR. What's your reaction to that?
Well, it's abrupt. It makes me wonder why, because it's in the middle of the season. It makes me think back to when Kyle Busch was standing on his pit gate talking about how bad they were and how, when he was arguing with Stenhouse and who was standing off to the side about 10 feet away. Andy Petree.
Yeah.
I just wonder if Andy decided I need to do something else. Or did Andy voice an opinion and a concern that wasn't, that the rest of the group didn't agree on, and said, "Hey, maybe we're not all on the same page here." So, something like that probably went down. Andy isn't. I don't see Andy as the kind of guy that just says, "Hey, mid-season, I'm gonna go do something different," So something went down. It's kind of like that Almirola, Bubba Wallace thing. I don't know that we'll all know the true details of it, but it doesn't feel good. But, it presents an opportunity for the team to change. I always said this with Letarte when we were working well together. We would, if we lost like somebody that we thought, anytime you have a vacancy or a hole opening up, right? Don't worry and debate about whether that person was great or they sucked at their job. Every time you have a vacancy, it's an opportunity to get better. And so, Petree's got a legacy. Dude has accomplished a ton in this sport. Appreciate what you did for RCR. It was awesome that he came back and was a part of all of that over the last several years. But here's a chance to hit a home run, bring in somebody with some new ideas and some new energy. And so you got to make sure you get that choice and get that pick right. And so that could be crucial for the future of RCR going forward.
We got time for one more quick one, like 2.5 minutes before our race winner calls in. So I want to hit this real quick. This is coming from Charles. What does recovery after a really hot race look like this week? I know we talked about that earlier in the show, but what does that look like for a driver?
Well, everybody's different. I went home, drank a lot of beer, and I spent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday hydrating. I wasn't going to go home and try to drink a bunch of water and Gatorade and try to get it all back in one day. But today drivers are different, man. It's you can't go home and drink beer after a hot race like that. You got to take better care of your body, and there's too much. There's not enough places to find advantages anymore, and I think that drivers have to be a little more smarter these days than maybe I was, or a lot of us were back in the 2000s and so forth. So, I mean, they have, a trainer, and they have, Josh Wise and all these different people to help them understand exactly what they need to be doing over the next handful of days to truly get themselves back in race shape. Well, we could actually ask somebody who actually ran in the race, or actually won the race yesterday or Sunday. Joey Logano's called in. Hey, Joey.
What's up?
How's it going, bud? Yeah, things are good.
Joey, FYI, we are live, so I just wanted to preface it that way, just so you know.
Yeah, we just
Thanks
dive
for
right
telling
in.
me that.
Yes, no problem.
We just dive right in.
Dale, we will have to. I think we will have to wrap our live Ash Jr. segment here. We can't get Joey. We can't get Joey and you on the screen at the same time.
Yeah, Joey, you're part of Ask Junior Live. You're on YouTube.
Oh, but you're kicking me off right
No,
now.
we're gonna
kicking them off.
We're stopping the
It
live
was short
stream.
and
Yes.
sweet.
All right, shut it down. Joey's here.
It's a technical
All
thing
right,
we got to do. Yeah, sorry.
Joey,
sorry,
you
folks.
Hang around, Joey. Everybody, I appreciate y'all tuning in to this episode of Ask Junior. Thank you, Xfinity Mobile, fastest mobile service with 5G and the hotspots all across nationwide. Appreciate everybody sending in questions for Ask Junior this week. It was a lot of fun handling that. You got to see a little behind the scenes here with our upcoming interview with Joey, and we're thankful to have him on the show, and we're going to get right to that. So we'll see everybody next week. All right, so Joey, thanks for calling and giving us some time today. I'm amazed every week we get to talk to the winner of the race on Tuesday, and I just am amazed we even get that time because you guys have so much going on in your lives. It is nothing like it was when I was driving cars. I wouldn't be able to do what you guys do today because you basically have to spend every single day of the week committed to preparing for the next event. So thank you. We got a lot to ask you. And one of the things, oddly enough, I wanted to jump into is your plans to drive the AM Racing number 15 at Chicago. How did all that come about?
Yeah, they called me last week and said, hey, we got the seat here for 15. It seems like it's going to open up, and do you want to drive it? And I thought, well, I think so. Let me clear with my boss Roger and make sure that's okay, and there's no sponsor conflicts or anything like that, right? And once I had all that cleared, it just seemed to make sense on really both ends, right? And that's what a good deal is, right? Is when it works on both sides of the deal. And when you think about AM Racing, they were looking to have an experienced driver in there and get kind of an idea of where their program's at, and see if I can help them from that perspective. And then I was looking at it and saying, man, I can get more laps on the Chicago street course. Can't be anything bad with that either. So I felt like that was worth it to me. And I went up to their shop and checked their cars out, and then was able to go back up, make get the seat in there, and feel pretty good about it at this point. So it should be fun. It's definitely a lot different than what I'm used to. And I haven't driven an Xfinity car, I think, since 2019, I think. So it's been a while since I've been in one.
That is a long time.
I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun.
How much support will there be, if any, from Penske?
None.
Wow.
This is going to be them. The support, they helped me put the seat in. That's good. They gave me a seat to use, and I'll use their gear. but outside of that, we're going with what they got.
All right. So moving on to the win. Congratulations on getting the win. Kind of a really wild scenario at the end of the race, but that's you. That's who Joey Logano is. If something like that's going to go down in a NASCAR race, Joey Logano is going to find the benefit and find a way to make it work for him. You always seem to be that kind of a driver that can survive and stay focused, I think, in those tumultuous moments. But everybody wants to know, all right, what is the it's not so much a secret, but what's the processes of saving fuel late in those races? I know you probably start that process pulling off pit road when the race begins, but help us through some of the physical things you do inside the car.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's no different than if you wanted to save fuel going down the road, right? The first thing you do is eliminate the brake pedal. The brake pedal is the number one fuel mileage killer. There's a few things that went into allowing us to run as long as we did. For one, I think there's 40-something laps of caution within that 110-lap window. So that helps a lot. You can save so much gas under caution. You look at in-car cameras, everyone's got the engine off, right? You're coasting. So the more you can coast obviously helps with that. The fact that we weren't as far forward as some of the other cars we were racing at the end of the race when we started that run. The further back you are, the pace is a little bit slower. You're burning a little less fuel. Every engine is a little bit different, right? And it seems like the Roush engine seems to make some pretty good fuel mileage from what we found out this weekend. How packed do you get the fuel cell, right? I mean, how good did your gas man do? How long did it take to get that flow rate up and make sure that you got it packed? So it really takes the whole team to make fuel mileage the best as possible and get as many laps as possible. But I tell you what, we weren't too confident the last one that we had enough, and their calculations were pretty good. I went into turn 3 and it stumbled coming to take the checker, and I was like, oh no, of course this is what's going to happen. And it built enough fuel pressure, I guess, when I was off the gas rolling through the corner, that it got a little squirt off of turn 4. And then it stumbled from there all the way to the start-finish line. And, you're watching in the mirror and you're watching cars come on the left and the right of you, coming at you. And you're just hoping that start-finish line gets there quick enough and you got enough momentum. So about 100 yards different. I think there may have been a different winner, but it worked out just right. I don't want to say we got lucky, but we got a little bit lucky the way the end of that race played out.
Yeah, I mean, sitting where you were, I think when Cindric spins out off of 2, to think that you were going to win that race in that moment would have you'd have told people they were crazy. But what is the overriding emotion when you cross the finish line? Because I'm sitting here watching you in this season. It's been a bit of a struggle. You're in a tough spot points wise. I would have to imagine at some point very quickly your mind has to go to the fact that you're locked into the playoffs. When did that happen?
Immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately.
That's all that matters, huh?
It's in your mind. Like when we won the All-Star race in Wilkesboro, is like a bittersweet moment. It's awesome that we won that and all the great things that go along with winning a cup race. But then you sit there and you go, gosh, but man, we really need the points right now. We're sitting outside of the playoffs at the moment, and how do we get ourselves in? And then you start getting closer to playoffs. You're on the bubble, and let's be honest, you can't get away from that pressure. That is there. When you go to sleep at night, it's on my mind. I can't get rid of it. And it builds every weekend, right? And then you look at the schedule coming up. Chicago Street Course, there's Pocono. There's just some odd racetracks coming up, and you're like, man, I don't know. Like Chicago can go one way or another. The bigger, faster tracks really haven't been our wheelhouse when it comes to speed. The short tracks we've been pretty good at. So you kind of look at it and you're like, man, it's going to be tight all the way to the end. And so you just know you can't afford to have any mistakes through those races. It's like you're in the playoffs 7 weeks before the playoff starts. And so that takes a toll on you for sure. So that relief of getting across the start-finish line, it kind of felt like when you win a super speedway race and you just don't know you got it won until you actually cross the line. Like off of turn 4, you're like, I don't know. Like it felt like that. And so that on top of the relief of being in the playoffs, I went bonkers. I was really excited. The whole team was excited. So we had a good time.
Well, man, I appreciate the time you give us today. It was fun to watch your emotion and excitement after a win. It's always good to see drivers show some genuine happiness and be themselves, and you certainly did that. And I can't imagine the playoffs without Joey Logano as part of it. Good luck going forward, and we hope to see you back on the show soon.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Hopefully I'm talking to you next week.
Dale, real quick, I wanted to tee this up before we wrap up the show. Adam Stern is reporting that Josh Berry and the Wood brothers have been having advanced talks. That's what the tweet. Dalton just pulled it up and said, just what's your reaction to that and Josh Berry with the maybe very real potential of going to that 21 car?
Well, I think he belongs in the garage on Sundays. And I think that, that's a tough situation because I'm very good friends with Jeff Burton and think a lot of Harrison. And, I hate that, that opportunity for Harrison will go away, and it'll be interesting to see where he may end up. If he goes back down to the Xfinity Series, I think he can go down there and win races and rebuild his confidence and get a different opportunity, somewhat like John Hunter Nemechek did. But for Josh, I'm a massive fan of Josh, and I'm a believer in his ability and think that he absolutely can and should be winning races in the Cup Series. I worked with Josh for over 10 years throughout the late model stock and Xfinity, his late model stock and Xfinity career. And put yourself in that scenario, right? You've worked with somebody for that length of time. They drove your race cars, and you did everything you could to get them these opportunities to finally make it to the Cup level where you believe they belong. And so that's where I am. That's why I'm such a big fan of his. It's because I truly have a lot of equity in that. And it's been fun to see how this 4 team has really embraced him. It's tough being a rookie to come in and really get the team behind you and get them believing in you. But it seems like that he has done a great job building relationships and building that bond with his team and Rodney Childers. My hope is that, if wherever Josh goes, that him and Rodney can stay together, but there is what are the chances of that? I don't know if they're very good or not, but I think no matter where Josh ends up, man, I believe that he can benefit the program that he goes to.
Is that something a driver has influence in? Like, hey, if I'm coming here, like, this is the crew chief I want. How much?
Yeah, I don't.
No.
I mean, I think you'd have to be kind of one of those drivers. I don't think any driver really has that kind of authority. Unless they're coming in with championships and race wins. Josh doesn't have the accolades. Now, he could sit down and say, we've built this, me and Rodney have built this relationship, and I think we're getting better and better and all these things. But he's in a situation, like a lot of guys, where they basically are just fortunate to be getting these conversations, having these meetings. Some of these drivers might not even get these calls. We're in a weird spot where there's kind of actually more talented drivers than there are seats to fill them. And so there's going to be some odd men out when it's all said and done, which is unfortunate. And so, since that's the case, you almost got, if you're Josh or Ryan Preece or anybody like that, you got to go with, the first person that calls you. You got to go, man, you sit down, you meet, you go to the shop, you look around, you say, I'm going to come here and I'm going to be behind this 100%. You're not going to come in with any demands. You're going to be thankful that you're getting this opportunity and thankful to have the chance to stay in the garage on Sunday. With Dirty Mo Doe, we're going to bring Alex Timms to the table, talk about his bets over the past weekend. And Alex has been a little quiet over the last couple of days. Usually we have a little text chat among the four of us here with Dalton and Alex and Andrew, and kind of teeing up some ideas on some bets that we might want to make over the course of the week. And so what's been going on, Alex? You've been quiet.
You good?
Right? You get on losing streak.
Going on.
You good?
It's
You okay?
It's a lot of weekend stuff. It's a lot of golf. This week, no really golf, really. It's a lot of lower tier events, not a lot of big names. So it's really just been NASCAR. So that's why I've been quiet.
Yeah. I see you on social media, man, trying to rally the troops, get people fired up about some of the things you're getting behind.
Yeah, trying to get some opinions out there, see what other people are doing. See if they're.
What were some of the things that you accomplished this weekend?
So the big win was I don't know why, but Ryan Preece top 10 stuck out to me during the week. It was plus 2,700, and it cashed throughout all the chaos at Nashville. So you could run that race 100 times and he probably wouldn't finish top 10. But he did when it mattered, so that's all that matters. So a lot of people cashed that ticket.
What was your explanation for Ryan Preece? Like when the one you wrote in the article?
I think I just said I have no idea why I like this. I just like it, and just trust it.
I had a friend. I had a friend. They said they saw that explanation. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off there. They saw that and they're like, "Oh, I'm placing this bet."
Yeah.
That's why. So nicely done. You won people some money with that.
2 truck wins there, so it wasn't totally out of the blue, but yeah, it was a little bit.
Well, coming up on Chicago, I'm interested in. I know you guys are going to drop Dirty Mo Doe on Thursday with some real analysts over. What bets you think will be good for this weekend. But where's your gut?
Man, it's tough to not go back to SVG, right? I mean, he was so good there, but I'll give Justin Haley the shout out. He finished second there last year in a Kala car, and each and every week he's running top 15 with that Rick Ware car. I would not be shocked if he is pretty fast and pretty good at this track. So he might be some really, really good long shot value.
I am a bit freaked out with Haley right now. So, they had this sort of issue in tech, some adjustments made to the car post pre-race inspection. They, I guess, expelled the car chief, and Justin did not run that great for a majority of that race. I mean, there were some times where he gained some track position, and you did see him at moments during the race at Nashville, but it looked to me like they had found NASCAR had found their speed.
They found
something they were. I'm worried, man. I'm just going to say that, like, I think going forward, maybe not at Chicago, but as we go to these other racetracks, be careful with the Haley bet because we don't know what NASCAR found, and we don't know if that was a big reason why they've had such great performance this year. And so, because both cars don't run the same. So one's getting the trick and the other's not. And it must have been something so nefarious that they were worried about doing it to both cars, because if you catch the one, then the other gets popped. So I'm not sure exactly what was going on, what this adjustment was, but it appeared to me like he underperformed this past weekend. So I'd be nervous about putting any bets on him. I think this weekend may be okay, but I think going forward, even like top 5, top 10, top 20s, I'd wait it out a couple weeks.
Yeah, that's not a bad tip. Yeah, I definitely think 1.5 mile tracks too. I stayed away from him last week just because I don't trust that speed yet. But you could be right; they could have found that secret sauce he's been using.
Yeah. All right, buddy. Well, appreciate it, man. Dirty Mo Doe, as we mentioned, comes out every Thursday on our Dirty Mo Media platforms. You don't want to miss it. Latart, Tim's, all the team giving you best analysts and best bets to make for every race upcoming, and especially this weekend with Chicago. Some good opportunity out there, I think, with Chicago. All right, so it's time for the white flag. Great show, man. Appreciate everybody, rallying today to get together for this final remote show. I've really enjoyed doing these. I even got a new mic for the show today. The guy said my audio wasn't good enough, so we're always trying to improve. But I'm ready to get back in the studio. I truly am. Looking forward to next week. But as always, all of our regular programming is coming out and available to you every single week. This past Sunday night, the Teardown with Jeff Gluck and Jordan Bianchi dropped. That has been an amazing addition to our lineup this year, and we're so thankful for the work that Jeff and Jordan do. On Monday, Actions Detrimental with Denny Hamlin. He had a special guest, our Bracket Challenge champion, Tyler Reddick. Who had Tyler Reddick going all the way this year? I mean, it's a prelude to what we might see next year, where a driver like Tyler Reddick steals the monetary prize that NASCAR is going to put forth in the in-season tournament next year. So pretty cool for Denny to have Tyler on the show. And Denny also gave us a lot of great insight on this past weekend's race. Door Bumper Clear came out as well Monday, and those guys are tossing around a lot of rumors. The rumor mill is spinning in terms of drivers, but also in terms of schedule and so forth. And Door Bumper Clear guys been bringing it. Dropping tomorrow is Speed Street with Connor Daly and Chase Holden, and also our interview with Martin Truex Jr. Martin's going to call in from New Jersey, I believe. Hopefully he has good camera and audio. No telling what that might be like. But dropping Thursday, as I mentioned, is Dirty Mo Doe and DJD Reloaded. DJD Reloaded has been hitting homers all year long. It's been a great show, a great new addition to our lineup, a great new revision to the Thursday episode of the Dale Jr. Download. DJD Reloaded every Thursday. Dalton, you've got a tweet of the week.
Yeah, we had a lot of comments last week, and I'm still workshopping the name for this. So if anybody out there kind of wants to come up with a name for this little segment, please reach out to us on social media. But a lot of people commented about the nerds. There's a lot of nerds fans out there.
Awesome.
There were a lot of people saying that they are over the age of 60 in sim racing. So starting like an old-timers sim racing league. They want you to be the captain of that. And then someone else shouted out that they have your exact glasses that you're wearing right now. But
really?
Yes. But the one tweet that stuck out to me, or it was actually a YouTube comment, and this guy, Mike Graham is his name. He said, "I'm 61 and I need a 12-step nerds program." I guess he's he's hooked on nerds, man. So
I got on the rig. I got on this rig right here. So I got the sim rig behind me, but this setup that I'm working with right now is what I play shoot 'em ups and stuff like that with. And I got on Hell Let Loose last night.
I actually saw you were when I sent you the message on Discord. It said you were playing Hell Let Loose.
Yeah, I was playing with Carson Quapple and a bunch of my buddies, Drew Parker and a couple of guys, and I ate some nerds clusters. Man, I sure did.
You rounded everything out.
Racing, nerds,
almost everything.
And these glasses, so these glasses aren't my regular glasses. For the one individual that wants to talk glasses, I'm thrilled. I've got these. These are my.
Oh.
Sorry, what?
I didn't notice you just changed pair. Oh, okay.
Yeah. So these are just my regular glasses that I wear all the time, and they're bi or trifocal. So like I read and then see long distance. And my long distance isn't too bad at 50 to 100 foot, but this is all blurry. Not too bad, but it's a little blurry. These I just bought at the glasses at my I just bought it at my eye doctor, and they just put the reader's prescription in there. So these are just for the computer. So these are not good at long distance. Like if I was to look outside, everything would be kind of fuzzy. But I wear these, and I've got them in such a big lens. See how much bigger it is?
Yeah.
So I can play video games, and there's no frame.
Oh, so it's like better for your peripheral vision then?
Yeah. So I can sim race and a wrap around and see everything on the screen without a frame in the way. We got the question of the week, and it's from Chase Elliott.
It is, yeah. I talked to Chase Elliott. We're going to start doing this every week, is having a driver or different person in the industry ask you a question. So this first one is from Chase Elliott.
When's he going to go run a super late model race? I know he's all about his late model stock stuff, you know. When's he going to go run a super late model car?
I like it. Oh, Chase. I guess I have to do that once, right? I wonder where Chase thinks I should run. I'm really close and tempted to running a pro late model in the Cars Tour. I probably maybe look into doing that next year. So then maybe the pro, go race the pro. That'll be a bit closer toward the super late model that he wants me to run, and then trying to find a race where I can go run a pro or a super late model that might be at a track that I would really enjoy. Those things are fast. I'll have to see how Harvick thought his run went this past weekend at Five Flags and what he would do differently. I don't know if I want to go there and race right out of the gate in my first super, so maybe somewhere else. But I like slick, worn out. I'll probably call Bubba Pollard and say, Bubba Pollard, what's the slick, worn out old short track I can go to? And go out there and try to save some tires.
For someone who doesn't know, aka myself, what's the difference between a late model stock car and a pro late model and super late model?
A late model stock car is a standard chassis. It's not offset at all. So the frame rails, it's like a Cup chassis or an Xfinity chassis where the frame rails are out toward this door. And so a super late model is offset. The right side frame rail from the rear all the way to the front is straight. So the door bars and everything are all brought in, and everything's offset, and a lot of left side weight, and they have a lot more power, a little more motor. So, they just are. They're gonna run a lot faster, and their weights may be a little bit different. So the late model stock car is a little more like what a Cup car or an Xfinity car was in its past. And the super late model is kind of like an ASA car or, a Midwest late model, or, they're just offset chassis and they're just a little bit different. I've never drove anything really like it. And maybe a time or two, but it's been a while. So those things fly around the racetrack. But I've been curious. I might go do it one day. I have to see if I could drive his. He's got a Chevy.
That's the show. And you're gonna take a drink, finish off the show, man. Yeah. Heck yeah!
Cheers, everybody!
Cheers.
Happy 4th. Everybody, have fun over the holiday. Be responsible, and be nice. Do something nice. Say something nice to somebody. And we'll see you tomorrow when Martin Truex Jr. calls in.